where he has my arms behind my back and we're both supposed to drop to the ground at the same time. You know, on cue, I drop and he stays up, dislocating my shoulder. What goes around comes around, and he ended up hurting himself on the set and was out for 2 weeks. So
first thing he's gonna do is kick you in the nuts. He's like, oh, hey, what, you gonna get a cup? Well, he's just gonna pop you in the nuts.
Steven Seagal built his whole image on being Hollywood's ultimate tough guy, but behind that slick ponytail was a man who many say acted like a real-life bully. He strutted around like he was untouchable.
What I say is law. You disagree? And I started cracking. I was like, I thought he was kidding. We were just hanging out.
Yeah.
And he Aikito'd me against a brick wall. Pow! Knocked all the air out of me. I was like, what? What?
Convinced he could push anyone into submission. But that ego crashed hard the day he crossed paths with DMX, raw, unpredictable, and carrying the type of energy you just can't fake. When their worlds collided, the tension was volcanic, and Seagal quickly realized he picked the absolute wrong man to test. See, the truth about Steven Seagal is darker than the movie posters ever showed. His reputation has crumbled over the years, buried under a mountain of accusations and behind-the-scenes chaos. People in the industry whisper the same thing over and over again. Seagal wasn't just difficult, he was toxic.
First thing he's gonna do is kick you in the nuts. He's like, oh, hey, what, you gonna get a cup? Well, he's just gonna pop you in the nuts.
Allegations range from stalling entire productions, clashing non-stop with cast and crew, to much heavier accusations of harassment and assault that still haunt his legacy. And when you talk to those who worked with him, the stories only get wilder. Former co-stars, stunt doubles, and even production staff describe him as egotistical, manipulative, and downright reckless. Imagine being on set with a so-called martial arts master who uses the fight scenes as his personal playground, dislocating people's shoulders for real, knocking the wind out of actors, and yes, even kicking stuntmen below the belt just to see if they were wearing protective cups. That's not method acting.
For real.
he put one guy's, a stunt guy put his head through the window. With his, he was just supposed to act like he hit him. He actually grabbed the guy and pushed.
That's cruelty. These aren't just isolated incidents either. Horror stories about Seagal's behavior float around Hollywood like urban legends that keep getting confirmed by one person after another. From broken bones to bruised egos, his trail of destruction has left a mark on everyone unlucky enough to cross him. It's almost unreal how often the same accusations pop up, painting Seagal not as the action hero he played on screen, but as a nightmare lurking right behind the camera. Most actors and stuntmen who clashed with Seagal ended up furious, but let's be real, none of them had the power to truly check him. He was a star, hard to challenge, and he knew it. But then came DMX, loud, raw, and fearless, and suddenly the whole game flipped. By the early 2000s, DMX was dipping into acting, stacking a few credits on his resume, and his biggest role yet landed him opposite Steven Seagal in the 2001 action flick Exit Wounds. And let me tell you, that set turned into pure chaos before cameras even got rolling. On day one, straight up tragedy. One stuntman lost his life in an accident, and the entire production was shaken.
Move where he has my arms behind my back, and we're both supposed to drop to the ground at the same time. On cue, I drop and he stays up, dislocating my shoulder.
But then came Seagal's reckless antics, and people started whispering the same old stories again. Picture this. A stuntman was supposed to crash through a sugar glass window for a fight scene, but Seagal, he decided to spice it up and hurled the poor guy through actual glass. That wasn't acting, it was dangerous ego on full display, and everyone knew it. And then came the infamous showdown, Seagal versus DMX, the big fight scene. Fight choreographer Dion Lamb had carefully built the sequence weeks earlier. Everything was laid out. Seagal's double Joe Buccaro, DMX's double Errol G. Hall, even producers signed off on it. They rehearsed, polished, and approved every move.
Really?
What goes around comes around, and he ended up hurting himself on the set and was out for 2 weeks. So.
Oh, good.
It was locked in. Fast forward 6 weeks. Time to film the epic fight. Dion runs the rehearsal again, just to refresh everyone. Suddenly, Seagal pulls his usual stunt and claims the choreography won't work. He demanded everything be scrapped and rewritten to fit his style. That sparked a full-blown war of words. Seagal, Dion, director Andrei Bartkowiak, and co-producer Dan Rallo screaming back and forth for an hour straight. Seagal finally stormed off set in dramatic fashion, only to return and film the fight exactly the way Dion had designed it in the first place. But here's the kicker. When the camera started rolling, Seagal couldn't resist flipping the script. During one sequence where both men were supposed to slam into the ground together, he pulled a sudden switch-up, completely leaving DMX hanging. Instead of crashing to the ground alongside DMX like the choreography demanded, Seagal pulled his infamous ego move. He stayed standing tall, letting DMX take the entire fall solo. The drop twisted wrong, and just like that, DMX's shoulder popped out of place. The pain was so brutal he had to step away from filming for several days just to recover. But here's where the whispers get wild. When DMX came back to set, the vibe had changed. He wasn't about to just forgive and forget, especially not after being humiliated and sidelined. Word on the street is, during one of the fight sequences, DMX decided to flip the script himself. Instead of a staged hit, he swung for real and connected. Witnesses swear it wasn't just a Hollywood punch. This one had weight behind it, and Seagal felt it. The set went silent, tension thick enough to cut with a knife. And if that wasn't enough, DMX later stirred the pot even more. In an interview, he dropped one of those cryptic bombs.
Man, to run rampant with DMX, we should definitely be happy to be alive. We was in the shootout broad daylight. That was life or death.
Hinting at karma catching up to Seagal. He flat out said, "What goes around comes around," and confirmed that Seagal ended up injured on set so badly he was out for 2 whole weeks. Now, on the surface, it could have been just another accident. Action films are notorious for bruises and breaks, and actors get hurt all the time. But fans and insiders weren't so quick to buy the official line. They started connecting dots, wondering if that so-called accident was really just fate.
I was like, I'm gonna pay for it. I don't wanna hop it this time. And then he was like, what, you getting rich on me? He was mad at me for saying, I was like, nah, I'm tired. I don't feel like running, goddammit. Something told me I reached under the seat and the driver had a gun. And I showed X out and he was like, wow. Like that day, that we would have hopped the cab, that guy could have shot it.
Or if DMX had a hand in it, directly or indirectly. See, DMX was never the type to let anybody play him. If you knew X, you knew he carried that wild, unpredictable fire everywhere he went. It didn't matter if you were a martial artist.
All right, I'm riding with you. Let's go. Jumps in the car with him. We ride out. Come to find out, he stole the car that we're riding in. He stole the car we riding in. He stole it from Michael Kaiser.
Okay.
It was Kaiser's car. He stole the car.
A Hollywood big shot or a so-called tough guy, if you crossed him, you were gonna pay. That's why so many people still whisper that Seagal's accident may not have been such an accident after all. And DMX didn't exactly shy away from stoking the flames. In later interviews, he kept taking digs at Seagal, making it crystal clear he didn't respect him one bit.
So the police pull us over. And they like, yo, license, registration, woo-woo. X gets to tell the story like, well, you know, this is not really my car. The police said, all right, I understand what you're saying. It's the label guy's car and you guys took the car, whatever. But I'm not gonna lock you up, but you're also not gonna go anywhere in this car. So he takes us out the car. So now we on the side of the road.
There's even a leaked story where X flat out admitted that hitting Seagal harder than planned was his way of checking him, putting the so-called action hero in his place. That was X's message. You're not gonna clown me on set and walk away untouched. Then came the interview that lit the rumor mill on fire. DMX, sitting down with a rap magazine, unloaded on Seagal like never before. He called him, quote, a effing-ish head with spray-on hair, and even mocked his stiff accent, comparing him to some old-school overseer. The disrespect was brutal, and DMX didn't care one bit who was listening. And while that unscripted punch never made the final cut of Exit Wounds, it lived on through the whispers of crew members and industry insiders. The moment itself became legend, proof that Seagal's intimidation tactics didn't work on everyone, especially not on DMX. At the core, the clash between these two couldn't have been more symbolic. Steven Seagal, Hollywood bully, flexing Aikido skills and star power to throw his weight around. DMX, the gritty street warrior, unpolished, fearless, and immune to the smoke and mirrors of Hollywood hierarchy. Ask anyone who rolled with X, and they'll tell you the same thing. Running with him was a guaranteed ticket to madness. Chaos followed him everywhere, but that's what made him real. And when that energy met Seagal's fake tough guy act, it was only a matter of time before sparks exploded. Take Swizz Beatz, for example. He's got enough wild stories with DMX to fill a whole book. One memory he shared sounds straight out of a street movie. Back in the day, X had this crazy habit of hopping in cabs and just never paying. To him, a taxi wasn't a service. It was a free ride. That was literally his mindset. He moved like the rules didn't apply to him. Swizz remembers one night in particular. They rolled up in a cab, and when they finally got to their stop, Swizz reached for his pocket to pay the fare. That's when DMX snapped. He got heated, almost offended that Swizz would even think about paying a cabbie. But the tension flipped quick when Swizz spotted the driver's hand resting near a gun. That sobered DMX up real fast. Suddenly, X wasn't so eager to test his luck, and for once he agreed to hand over the money. Because if they'd pulled their usual stunt that night, it could have ended with way more than just an argument. And then there's the infamous joyride with Ja Rule. At the absolute height of their fame, DMX convinced Ja to jump into a sleek Mercedes-Benz.
DMX came in, and DMX started questioning the reporter and told the reporter to run his take off his whatever he had on.
The catch? The car wasn't theirs. It belonged to Def Jam executive Michael Kaiser. And to make it even crazier, DMX didn't even have a license. But X didn't care. He slid into the driver's seat, revved it up, and tore through the streets of Miami like he owned the city, while Ja clutched the passenger side for dear life. Inevitably, flashing lights lit up behind them. The cops pulled them over, demanding license and registration. And in true DMX fashion, he flat out admitted it wasn't his car. Instead of calling a cab like anyone else would, DMX did what only DMX would do. He stepped right into the middle of the road, threw his thumb up, and started hitchhiking. And of course, fate played along. A random woman recognized him instantly and pulled over without hesitation. She didn't just give him a lift, she drove him straight to her grandmother's house. By the time they arrived, the whole neighborhood had poured out into the street. Kids lined up for photos, food was being served, and what started as a night that could have ended in handcuffs turned into a full-blown block party celebrating X's arrival. But not every run-in ended with hugs and cookouts. Enter comedian Aries Spears, who shared one of the wildest stories about crossing paths with DMX. Aries was at an event, hustling to promote his comedy CD. He'd been going around asking celebs for endorsements, and when he reached out to DMX, things took a sharp left turn. See, Aries had a reputation for doing impressions of X, and apparently DMX wasn't feeling it at all, so DMX told him they needed to talk and led him into a locker room. Suddenly, almost 30 guys followed them in, forming a tight circle around Aries and DMX. Then, just to crank up the tension, a bodyguard slammed the door shut and stood guard like nobody was leaving until business was handled. DMX started grilling Aries about the impressions, his tone serious and intimidating. Aries tried to explain it was all jokes. No shade, no disrespect. But then, instead of blowing up, DMX flipped the mood. He told Aries to bring the CD by his hotel later, saying, "If it's good, cool. If it's not," and then he just let the silence hang. But here's where it turned straight movie script insane. According to Aries, DMX pulled a razor blade out from under his tongue, holding it like a warning sign. That visual alone was enough to shake Aries to his core. Needless to say, after that surreal moment, he never showed up at DMX's hotel with the CD. They were soldiers at his side. They went everywhere with him, and the stories of how he rolled with them are legendary. Some even say he used his dogs to pull off robberies. No guns, no knives, just pure intimidation. Jermaine Dupri once shared one of the wildest tales from back in the late 90s. According to him, DMX actually robbed a music reporter using nothing but the presence of his dog. That night was supposed to be about music, not madness. They were in the studio working on Get Yours Right, a track from Dupri's 1998 album, Life in 1472.
You know somebody lying when they showed up at what had happened
I was
was.
rushing for a flight.
Right.
And this dude in the raggedy ass Honda, he driving wild slow.
Right.
Now, usually if I'm in a rush, you know what I'm saying, and I'm in that truck, I hit the lights and, throw the siren or whatever, and they get out the way.
Right.
But he was just totally disrespecting my authority.
Jermaine later called it one of the craziest nights of his life in a video he posted on Instagram. And when he broke down the details, it sounded straight out of a hood movie. Here's how it went down. Dupri had arranged for a writer from The Source magazine to swing by the session. The plan was simple. Give the world a behind-the-scenes look at heavyweights like DMX in action. The reporter showed up early, notebook in hand, waiting to soak it all in. But when DMX rolled in, flanked by his two dogs, the whole atmosphere shifted. By the time Dupri himself arrived, the vibe in the room was icy. The writer wasn't scribbling notes, he was standing there in shock. He had just been robbed, and not in the usual way either. No pistol, no fist fight, just DMX, his dogs, and that trademark intensity. According to Dupri, DMX walked up to the reporter, hit him with that piercing stare, and started pressing him with questions. Then came the order, run your ish. That was slang for hand over everything. Jewelry, cash, personal belongings, whatever he had on him. And here's the crazy part, the dog didn't even have to lunge or bark. Its presence alone was enough to scare the reporter into giving it all up. And believe it or not, this wasn't the only time stories like that surfaced. Jadakiss himself backed it up during a 2019 interview on Power 106. He laughed while recalling how, back in Yonkers, DMX used to rob people with his legendary pit bull Boomer. According to Jada, X didn't even need a gun. If Boomer was there, you already knew what time it was. That dog was so disciplined, so intimidating, that one look was enough to make people hand over whatever X demanded. Jadakiss even joked about it, saying it wasn't armed robbery at all. It was dog robbery. He summed it up perfectly. From my hood, seeing X walk around with a pit bull robbing people with his dog, to seeing him in movies with Jet Li, that was wild. But Jada also stressed one thing. Beneath all the chaos, DMX had a genuine bond with his dogs. They weren't just props in his madness. He truly loved them, no matter how intense the story sounded. Even X's ex-wife Tashera Simmons confirmed this side of him. She once told a jaw-dropping story about watching DMX at just 11 years old, commanding a pit bull to snatch an old woman's purse. The craziest part? The dog was so well trained it carried out the robbery flawlessly without hesitation. That wasn't just loyalty, that was control on another level. And then came Fat Joe, who revealed another wild encounter. He said after a show with DMX and Big Pun, they stopped at a gas station. Out of nowhere, a random guy walked in rocking a chain, and DMX, never one to resist temptation, straight up robbed the man right there on the spot. But perhaps the most shocking claim came from a fan in Newark, New Jersey. After one of X's concerts, a 21-year-old fan, who had just cashed his paycheck, said he stopped at a gas station where DMX and his crew happened to be. The fan claimed he started chatting casually with DMX when suddenly someone in X's entourage flashed a gun. That's when, according to the victim, DMX himself snatched $3,200 straight out of his hand. Surveillance cameras reportedly caught parts of the gas station stick-up, showing DMX's crew peeling off in a convoy of black Escalades like something out of a music video. The story instantly went national, but DMX, in classic fashion, brushed it off with a laugh. He denied everything, saying he wouldn't even remember pulling something like that. And besides, he made more money from a single concert than the victim even claimed was stolen. His lawyer doubled down too, mocking the accusations and asking the public if anyone seriously believed a superstar like DMX would stick up two random guys at a gas station. With no hard evidence, police dropped the case, but it was far from the last time DMX's name was tangled up in legal chaos. See, X wasn't just rapping about the streets, he lived them. His rap sheet reads like an outlaw's biography. Robbery, assault, weapons charges, carjacking, tax evasion, you name it. One of the wildest chapters came in June 2004 at New York's JFK International Airport. DMX was 33, sitting at the peak of his fame. But what went down that day felt straight out of an action flick. According to reports, X pulled up with his friend Jackie Hudgens, but instead of moving low-key, he went full-blown Hollywood outlaw. He started claiming he was a federal agent and drove his SUV right through a parking lot gate, barking at the attendant that he was on official government business. And it didn't stop there. Things escalated fast. X allegedly tried to drag a man, Sergei Prokhorov, out of his car by yanking his seatbelt, basically attempting a carjacking in broad daylight at one of the busiest airports in the world. When police finally swarmed the scene, it only got crazier. Inside DMX's SUV, they didn't just find him in the middle of a meltdown. They uncovered crack rocks, diazepam, oxycodone, and even a billy club tucked away. The charges stacked up instantly. Drug possession, impersonating a federal officer, menacing, DUI, weapons violations, the works. By December 2004, DMX managed to skate by with just a conditional discharge. But his legal troubles were far from over. The very next year, he pleaded guilty to violating parole, keeping him locked in a never-ending cycle of courtrooms, probation hearings, and jail stints. It felt like every time he took a step forward in music or movies, the law came knocking to drag him 2 steps back. Meanwhile, the man at the center of the JFK chaos, Sergei Prokhorov, wasn't about to let it go. He slammed DMX with a staggering $4 million lawsuit for assault, battery, and emotional distress. The court didn't give him millions, but X was still ordered to cough up $240,000, a huge hit to his pockets. And yet, DMX's lawyer kept defending him, even insisting that X felt justified in trying to pull Sergey over that day, claiming the driver refused to move out of the way. But no excuse could hide the pattern. Jail became like a revolving door for DMX, with over 30 separate visits across his lifetime. From short stints to longer bids, it was as if prison had become a temporary home that X just couldn't escape, cementing his legacy as one of hip-hop's most talented yet most troubled icons. What do you think? Was DMX his own worst enemy, or just a man who could never outrun the streets that raised him? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you want more deep dives like this.